The final thing that I want to go over before we actually create our site is a question that I often hear from students. And that's, what's the best one, right? So what's the best site to make a portfolio on? What's the best way to make a portfolio, whatever, stuff like that. Going back to that first video about what should be in a portfolio and like what you should include in a portfolio and why have a portfolio, everything is relative, right? There's not really a best. What you need to think about is what is best for your situation, what is best for what you want to show and what you want to do. So this older site that I created with Google Sites quite a long time ago that I had shared with students like, I don't know, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. It's very resume style and it's not necessarily bad, but depending on what I want to do, it may not be the best, right? It sort of depends on, once again, what do I want to do, right? And this might need to be combined with something else, right? Like a more uh, showy style of portfolio, right? Or, well, an actual portfolio, because this is not even really a portfolio. This is, like I said, basically an online resume. If I go to here, right, like this could be pretty good, right? Like it's pretty simple to do, right? It shows things off. It's part of an online creative community where other people can find my work, right? So that does have some potential benefits. If I really want to go into programming, this isn't necessarily that great because I can't really show off much of my programming, right? Basically, what you do on this one is you upload pictures and you can add some text, and that's about it. You can't really run code, you can't upload code. So, for that regard, it's not that great. The other thing, too, is this is really sort of more of an artist site, and I have received almost no interest in like potential work opportunities from this. Now, that doesn't mean you can't. It might just be that what I'm creating doesn't necessarily apply to the sort of people that are looking on here. My LinkedIn has worked so much better for that sort of thing, right? And LinkedIn might be the best one if you're in a situation where you don't have a whole lot of time to develop a portfolio and you don't have a whole lot of time to promote your portfolio. Like I said earlier, I haven't done really any promotion for myself, and I have gotten interest from LinkedIn despite that I'm not even looking. Here, this might require actually taking some time to invest in promoting yourself, right? So that is something to be aware of too. Do you have the time to promote yourself or not? And do you need to, right? Like, are you making your portfolio to look for jobs? Are you making your portfolio to show to specific jobs that you're finding that you're interested in? Because in that case, maybe you don't need them to find you. Maybe you just need them to be able to access, what you're giving them, right? Where you're going to contact them and say, go here to see my work, right? Or you're going to a school and saying, I want to apply here, check out some of the things I've made, right? So it depends. Which one is this? The Google Sites. I think Google Sites is a pretty good one. It's probably better than this one for my needs, right? Because I have a lot more flexibility in what I want to create. I could show some code. I have all these different pages that I can design and decide what I want to put on there. So I'll talk about this one that we're actually going to sort of create together, and I think this is a pretty good one. Now, if you're really into programming and you've decided like I am going to be a programmer, like this could be okay, right? The other option would be to do something on GitHub. GitHub is super important and super widely used in coding because you can actually upload your code there, and this is basically a community for programmers. So this is a great one if you know you want to focus on programming. If you know you want to go to school for programming, then this is a great one where you can have a page, you can have a portfolio, and you can actually have your code and some of those things. Now, the last one would be to make your own site. And you might be thinking like, oh, like Google Sites. I said that already. No, no, I don't mean Google Sites. Like that is a site builder that builds it for you based on what you choose to do. I mean like you are actually writing the code itself. And if you're a serious programmer, that is also something to consider because making a website isn't that hard when it comes to like programming ideas. So showing that you can make a website, assuming it looks good, is a pretty good thing too because then the work you're showing in the portfolio is important, right? But also the site is sort of proof that you can also make things, right? Hopefully things that look good. Hopefully your site looks good, right? Now, depending on what you want to program, you might not want to work on the web. You might not want to make websites, right? So then if you don't want to make websites but you do want to program, then maybe you come back to GitHub and this is where you have your portfolio. So there's not really a best, right? There's no like, oh, well, this is the best one, period. It depends on what you want to do, what you want to show, where you want to go, right? And you have to decide for yourself what is the best one for you. For this class, we're going to make one on Google Sites because that works very well for our needs. But just keep in mind, in the future, you might want to rethink where you're putting your things, or you might want to have sort of two portfolios depending on how soon you think you might need a portfolio.